Okay, smile.
Wait, we're missing one.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
We're tired.
We're tired.
London is full of biodiversity, even though you might not think so because you mostly just see pigeons everywhere and not much else. But if you look closer, the city has so many animals like parakeets and foxes, deer, hedgehogs, magpies, crows, various geese, gulls, robins, starlings, blackbirds, frogs, and peregrine falcons. Should I keep going? There's even snakes in the region's canal. And hey, pigeons are pretty cool. The point is, London is a place that so many species call home, and we are just one of them. It can be hard to actually know what's going on around us, what wildlife is close by, and if they're doing okay. Maybe you want to help the species in London thrive, but how do you know what's actually good for urban wildlife? If we cared, then we figured there were people out there who wanted to know as well. So we kind of did something to help with that.
We started a project at uni, hoping to engage students in biodiversity. So guess what we called it? BiodiverCITY. We wanted to open up a discussion, to talk to people about urban biodiversity in London, and to find out what our students on our campus knew about it. So we held some guided walks, and we also held some creative workshops. The guided walks were on our campus park. They were early in the morning, and even though we knew that the last thing students and staff probably wanted to do was come to an organised walk on a Saturday morning, but it turned out that the reaction we got was actually quite amazing. We made a guidebook so that students had a map of their senses and questions and species that they could use to open their mind and explore the park. Our walks were held by Nat in our group. She's already passionate about wildlife, and we thought that students would like to hear what she had to say.
And I'll ask the motivation for using our senses as our way in to appreciating biodiversity was the idea that our senses is what tell us what is out there. It's our connection from what is inside to what is outside. And it's a very personal and very direct connection. Everyone feels differently, everyone prefers different senses. It was a way to also empower people to kind of come up with their own knowledge and trust their ways of knowledge. So what we did with the actual walks is we used our senses as our guides to let us understand and know Russell Square. At first, I think people are kind of used to a guided walk being you're just listening. But then because the activities were more on you and putting you as a participant and as the knowledge creator, then people started being more comfortable, and by the third sense, people were showing me things that they had found or asking things that they could hear, and just kind of coming up with even deeper questions on what knowledge is about. This whole experience of being aware of our senses is kind of tapping into a superpower that we don't really use.
After the walk, we spoke to the students. They seemed more curious than ever to engage with the biodiversity in our city.
To be honest, I know nothing at first. Yeah, but after today's trip to the Roses Park, I discovered lots of birds, pigeons, and also the trees. I've never watched it carefully before.
What species do you think deserve more attention?
I don't really know. I feel like the problem is that I might not be aware of the species which do require the most attention, if you know what I mean. I'm not very well educated on what things are.
I really want to know more about the plant species because I think the plants here are quite different from them in my country and where I lived. So yeah, it's interesting to discover what's going on here and who lives here, like birds, animals.
We wanted to answer the questions that the students still had, so we channeled our inner David Attenboroughs to find out what species are out there in our cities and what we can do to help them.
When you think of wildlife in London, flowers may not be the first thing that comes to your mind, but apart from being a pollinator's treasure, and of course looking pretty, they also have some nice benefits for humans. There are plenty of studies which show that just looking at flowers can reduce your stress and improve your mood. But we don't really need data to prove that flowers are just nice. Yellow, orange, and pink flowers are associated with joy and energy, and blue and purple flowers with relaxation and calmness. Red ones are like passion and alertness. If you're out walking through the city on a sunny day and see some flowers on someone's balcony or in a park, doesn't that make you think, that's nice? Another study taken from Pakistan shows that on university campuses, flowers helped men feel stronger well-being benefits than women. So if you have a balcony or even a windowsill, maybe you could plant some flowers there? You would be helping the well-being of people who walk by and see them. And again, aren't they just pretty? While we humans admire flowers with our eyes, for pollinators, they're a lifeline. It's less about seeing and more about sipping. Bees, hoverflies, butterflies, and moths fly through London's green spaces, turning each bloom into a buzzing buffet. It's tempting to see urban environments as a kind of a side dish to pollinators, a quick pit stop before they head to the countryside where flower-filled meadows supposedly await. But in nature-depleted countries like the UK, the fourth most deforested country in Europe, by the way, it's not that simple. With few wildflower meadows left and much of the countryside dominated by farmland, cities can sometimes support more bee species than nearby agriculture. Allotments and private gardens in particular have become buzzing hotspots for the city's savviest pollinators. But if you want to keep our pollinator neighbors happy, it's not just about planting any flowers. Keep in mind, they're not here for the looks, they're after the good stuff, the pollen and the nectar. Some flowers, like modern roses and peonies, have been selectively bred to look lush and full, but they're so dense that pollinators can't even get to the pollen inside. Others have lost most of their nectar-producing abilities altogether. Beautiful to us, maybe, but useless to a hungry bee. For pollinators, flowers aren't art, they're food. Luckily, there are plenty of flowers that strike the perfect balance, pretty to look at for us, and packed with nectar for our tiny friends. Some early season stars include crocus, pulmonary, winter heather, primrose, and hellebore. Later in the year, go for borage, wild marjoram, cornflowers, and foxgloves. And if you want a garden that keeps buzzing all year long, try adding a mix of aster, echinacea, sunflower, lavender, catmint, cosmos, salvia, bidens, bacopa, craspedia, rudbeckia, lobelia, and gaura. That was a mouthful, alright. But look at all the options. By choosing the right flowers, you're not just brightening up your space and your mood, you're also able to lay out a feast for our lovely neighbors. Let me tell you about pigeons, actually. So, the other flying inhabitants of our cities that deserve more attention than they get are pigeons. As a society, we insult them by calling all of them just pigeons, but there are two different types of pigeons, like wood pigeons and rock pigeons. I say pigeons a lot. Maybe you think of them as disease-ridden flying rats, but in human history, a lot of societies loved pigeons. We used them as messengers, we bred them into fancy forms, we even had pigeon racing. Gradually, they started to escape from captivity and started their own feral populations in cities, where we find them up until this day, living alongside but independently from humans. Naturally, they nest on rocky cliffs, so the concrete and stone landscape of our cities wasn't a bad substitute at all. They've got food, they are domesticated, why leave? We brought them here. And they don't really have more diseases than any other wild animal. So foxes, right? You might have crossed paths with one at 2 a.m. after a night out, and you shared a gaze for a brief, memorable moment, and then continued on with your lives. The London Wildlife Trust estimates that there are around 10,000 foxes in London. So what do we know about them? They scream, and it sounds like somebody's getting their leg chopped off, but it's actually just female foxes calling for males during the mating season. They spread diseases. Not too many, to be fair. They can rarely spread parasites and sarcoptic mangy to dogs, but the risk for humans is very low. Also, maybe don't pet them. They eat rubbish? Yeah, they do. Unlike their wild cousins, they don't chase rabbits, they chase Tesco sandwiches. But they still prey on stuff. They actually help control the pests like mice and rats by eating their food or by eating them directly. And what's interesting is that the health of urban foxes can also indicate the health of the whole urban ecosystem and biodiversity levels in the city. And if you leave your bins unsecured outside, don't be surprised if they are toppled over by the morning. Foxes are clever, persistent, and have absolutely zero shame when it comes to bin diving. Right, it's been a long video, but deer. People love deer, and they travel from all around to see them. We didn't see any deer on our guided walks, but there are more and more sightings of deer in London. Wild deer numbers in Britain are the highest they have been since the last ice age. Deer are herbivores. They eat a wide range of plants, so they're normally found in large green areas like the Richmond Park. Males, or bucks, have antlers they use for fighting in mating season to win the right to mate. Females, or does, are smaller and have no antlers. Bucks, however, shed antlers once a year. These are in fact 2 male deer, but one has shed its antlers. It will regrow new ones, ready for mating season. Does can be very protective over their young fawns, and have been known to attack humans and other animals that get too close, so be careful in May and June, which is fawning season. Because there are so many deer, they're actually causing some biodiversity problems, as their populations keep growing because the UK has no predators to keep them in check. They consume and destroy woodland vegetation, affecting other animal species that also live off the vegetation. So it's important we monitor them through calls to protect the other wildlife. Even though honestly, we can't even make a dent in their population.
Cities support a rich variety of species. For many of them, the urban environment is the only place where they can live. So you might be wondering, okay, London is full of nature, there are so many animals and plants, but how do I actually help them? Well, there are so many things you can do to be a good steward for nature. You can start with little things like picking your litter or not feeding animals or picking flowers. And just generally being mindful of your impact on other species. Please also share your knowledge and appreciation with friends and family so they too can contribute and benefit. There are also many communities caring for urban nature you can be part of. If you're a university student, why not join a nature conservancy society? And if you're not, maybe join a gardening club in your area, like the one here called Friends of Russell Square. If you're keen, join a citizen science project or support larger initiatives, such as those creating green corridors, wildlife bridges, and other natural habitats. Small contributions or sharing your photographs goes such a long way. At the end of the day, it's all about being aware and respectful of all of our wonderful neighbors that share this city with us. You can be a powerful protector of nature, just like you are a valuable creator of knowledge. Yes, you! So go out there and tap into the power of your senses. Let them show you our wild neighbors as you've never experienced them before. We would love to hear what you have to share.